Welcome to another edition of Mr. Nice Guy. I'm Ben Slowey, and today on the show we have a lo-fi bedroom pop artist who he performs pretty frequently around town. You can catch him at his show, whether it's Cactus Club or High Dive or any DIY basement in town. He's often at all those places. His latest EP is called Shadow, just dropped last year. We've got So Zuppy.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Dude, thanks for being here. How was your day today?
It's well. I woke up pretty early, started studying for an exam, took that 12:30.
How'd that go?
I think it went well. It was pretty easy. It was about like classical and Baroque music history. So
Yeah. Are you polished in that area?
a little bit. It's like one of the required classes in music school, but yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, man. I guess this is a good way to kick off your summer.
For sure.
Sitting here doing a little nice guy show.
I really appreciate you having me on.
Man. Yeah, I think this calls for some sun-kissed pink lemonade.
For sure.
Left over from last night. Yeah, shout out Gluttony Sin and Emily Acker. We drank a lot of alcohol, and I was definitely feeling it this morning. I don't even really remember walking home. Fucking Capriccio.
Well, cheers to that.
Yeah. Man, I forgot pink lemonade even existed.
It's a good summertime drink.
It definitely is, and I just wasn't seeing it anywhere for a long time. But it's good to see that it's still on shelves.
Mm-hmm. This is the only juice I would drink growing up. It's all we had. I mean, not this brand, but pink lemonade in general.
Oh, right, yeah. It's if I sometimes my mom would curve my soda intake. She wouldn't let me get soda all the time because it's bad for you. Right. So she'd let me get pink lemonade.
So it's slightly better.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's not great, yeah. But see, they even had to specify non-carbonated.
Yeah.
So here's what we talk about on Mr. Nice Guy. The show is love and fear. So I'm interested in how artists kind of use those driving forces to express themselves and how it's reflected in their creative work. And so you are, so we met at Fat Charlie's. Shout out Fat Charlie's, new DIY spot on the east side. Saw you again at Nausicaa a couple weeks ago. And and interviewing you after the show, I needless to say, you're one of the most unique artists I've talked to.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, just the whole way you've kind of branded yourself as an artist, and also it's also just cool to see artists that have that affinity for sort of the lo-fi aesthetic, that kind of fuzzy, beachy sort of pop sound. Dream Avu, that's his debut album. Also really good.
Thank you.
So I want to, hear a little bit about sort of how to start. It's a really fascinating story. To start, how you developed your what So Zuppy is, how you developed that phrase, and why you chose to stick with it.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think these days there are a lot of bands out there, a lot of kind of stereotypical names that you'd expect a band to have. And for a long time, I performed under a different name. You might be able to find it somewhere online. I don't feel like really saying it again. But,
yeah, sure.
Well, yeah, I was trying to figure out a new moniker or stage name to go by. I had countless notebooks of endless possibilities of names, and I couldn't seem to really choose one. And then I started kind of looking back. This was about the time I was writing Dream Avu, which was largely inspired by surreal dream states and lucid dream states.
Yeah.
So I kept thinking back to these couple of dreams I had. The first one I had back in high school, and I was like wandering this kind of abandoned massive carnival. Nobody was there except for a bunch of like rolling, tumbling pieces of paper, and the whole subject of that dream was like me chasing that paper and like trying to figure out what was on that paper. And by the end of it, I picked one up and it just said "So."
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I woke up, didn't really think much of it at the time, and kept living my life. The second dream is where Zuppy got its name, and in that dream I was in this crazy like futuristic mansion, like running around, and there was this little creature that was about this big, like small dog, but it had the body of a horse and the head of some sort of dog.
Mm-hmm.
And it was zipping around the apartment, and it had this like really unbelievably beautiful and like accepting energy. And you know, most dogs kind of embody that.
Yeah.
But we were like having this telepathic relationship in this dream of like communication, and Zuppy stuck with me, so
Mm-hmm.
Zuppy.
Yeah, no, it's, man, have you drawn this, Zuppy?
Yeah, I've had a few different versions. Like once in a while in class, like I'll just draw in the margins, but yeah, it's fun to draw. I think it's definitely blue, has like a little mini mane.
Nice, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
That's dope. The latest mythical creature, Zuppy. But no, that is really fascinating. I think that you're right about how I think artists sort of overthink, you know, their title, the kind of like their like what they go by, performing or creating, what have you. Like even myself, it took me a while to settle on the name for this show. I did a podcast a couple, like 2 years ago now, if you could even call it a podcast. I did like 4 episodes of it, but it was called the Slow Down with Slowey. If you search me on SoundCloud, you can still find the 4 interviews that I did. But that name kind of came from like my friends, that when they were helping me sort of like when they were helping me out with like finding my name, and like sure, it was kind of like a flashy sort of fun name to start with, but like after a while it's like it's not really like a serious name. I didn't feel like people would really take me very seriously with if like I was gonna do this show and like actually do something that I want people to watch and that I want to gain traction. Then I don't know, I think Slow Down with Slowey's a little corny, so I definitely get that. I think Nice Guy just kind of it just kind of clicked with me one day.
It can feel like you kind of pigeonhole yourself based on what name you had. That's kind of the situation of why I changed my moniker in the first place, because the one I used to use was like a very matter-of-fact like statement about my music in a way, and it made me feel kind of stuck. So that's why I think like the sort of ambiguous, open-ended, kind of nonsensical name appealed to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's something that no one is gonna like right off the bat understand. No one's gonna be able to like have any sort of preconceived notion about you and about who you are. Like honestly, like when I first saw So Zuppy, I thought it was gonna be like some weird like neo pop band or something like that. But then it turned out it was you. it was just you.
Just me, yeah.
And dreams are really incredible in that way. Almost like it's almost kind of terrifying sometimes how much dreams sort of shape how how they sort of like take shape, like even when you're awake sometimes, like I'll have like random sort of like I'll just kind of have like moments of zoning out where like I'll remember things I saw in dreams, or like I'll feel a certain way that like I felt in a dream, and I'll get like a sense of deja vu or something like that.
Yeah, that's where dream-a-vu came from. It's like dream-a-vu, but I mean deja vu, but
Oh, wow.
dreams instead.
Sure.
Because there was a time, I don't really get it much anymore, but you know, when I was writing it, I was constantly feeling like, what, did I fucking dream this moment right now? Or
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
But
get
it's a
that all
very
the time.
strange feeling. It's distinguished from deja vu, where like, you know, this like weird thing happened, and yeah, it's hard to...
You don't trace it back to a dream specifically. You kind of just feel like, did I live this before? But yeah, dream. Yeah, I know what you're saying. I felt that too, where it's like I don't know if I've like seen this, like if like I got like a preview of this like in a dream before, of this moment, and like now it's happening or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the evolutionary reason for dreams, kind of like giving us practice for the weird things that'll happen in real life, or even mundane things, you know.
Yeah, like, because sometimes you'll have those like really like jumbled and sort of just very like nonsensical dreams, the ones that are just sort of like it's just like a culmination of a lot of things or people or experiences you've had, or that all kind of like blend together, which, you know, I think that it sometimes like, but sometimes dreams will be very super vivid, and like I'll be in a specifically like intelligent scenario and like have to make decisions in that scenario, and it's like you can't really like it keeps you guessing. You never know what night it's gonna be, you know, what you're gonna wake up from. So yeah, so like
I found that every once in a while, when I'm really lucky, a song will come to me in a dream, and I've had times where like a melody or maybe like a chord progression will just appear to me in a dream, and I've woken up and sung it into my voice memos on my phone, or like plunked it on the piano, and I started doing that and like trying to make it happen so much that I started to have the dream where the melody would come or like the lyric would come, and then I would dream that I woke up and started writing it down. So it's like a dream within a dream scenario where like I thought I woke up and started singing it, but I'm still really dreaming, and I never actually end up waking up and writing it down. It's really trippy.
Oh wow, yeah, shit. That's like, damn, yeah, that is wild. Have you ever gotten like sleep paralysis before?
Yeah, that's a very scary occurrence.
I haven't actually. I don't think I've ever had it, but I did get night terrors a lot when I was younger. I remember like waking up and just screaming and like being terribly afraid of God knows what. But yeah, never. I don't think I ever actually have really dealt with paralysis. What's it like for you?
Sleep paralysis, for some reason, whenever it happens to me, I'm like sleeping on my arm like weird, so it's pinned, and I'm like internally trying to like unpin my arm because it's falling asleep or whatever. But it's happened to me so much that I kind of know how to keep my cool when it's happening, and I've learned some techniques on how to wake up from it. One of them being, so basically what's happening is your brain, when you fall asleep at a certain point, like your brain turns off functions of your body so that you don't act out your dreams. And you know, sometimes there's glitches and your brain still shuts off your body and you're actually awake. So what you can do, one of the only things that you can control while you're in sleep paralysis is your breathing. So I've found that if you start taking really deep breaths, just like consistently, it'll wake you up. But
Sure.
On the topic of night terrors, I've had like a reoccurring night terror for like basically my entire life that kind of revolves around the concept of home invasions, and it's really fascinating. Like I'm not really scared by them per se anymore because I've kind of like accepted it, and it's kind of like entertainment in a way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's always different people, different scenarios, different houses, different like villains. Could be ghosts, people I know, different creatures like that.
Sounds like a show.
Yeah, it's weird. It's really weird.
Totally. Do you feel like? Do you think that dreams, like, I mean, I know it does for me, but like for you, do you feel like a lot of the things in your dreams are like do you find yourself often faced with things like you've been running away from, or things that like you have yet to address?
For sure. Like if something, like maybe I have a friend that I got into a fight with or something, and we haven't really resolved it yet, then I'll find myself having dreams of like really dramatic scenarios involving like what could happen. And honestly, when that happens, it kind of makes me want to better the scenario, and it's kind of like a learning practice time, like I said earlier. Like
yeah, absolutely. I've definitely felt that too, where like I'll wake up from a dream and like if I'm in like some kind of conflict with somebody, I'll like have a dream about it, and a lot of times I'll wake up and decide that like I need to address this. Like I've had a dream about it. This is kind of like sort of like a it's like a wake up call,
right?
Literally and figuratively. But yeah, sure. So in terms of like surrealism, like what? And I know that like there's a lot of surrealism that like you said, like kind of takes place thematically in your music. Like, what does that term, like, how would you define it, and like how do you relate to it?
In terms of my music, I think surrealism is mainly embodied through lyrics and maybe occasionally experimental production techniques. I like to explore kind of haphazard lyrics that aren't like super obvious with what they mean and could be open for interpretation. I think when lyrics are very direct and matter of fact, it seems it can go on the verge of like corny a little bit. But in terms of production, I explore a lot of like surreal, different field recordings and manipulating them and processing them and working them into some of the produced music that I make. And surrealism is something I'm drawn to in terms of the media I consume too, like movies and books, graphic novels, visual artwork.
Yeah. Where things just they're not what they seem, or there's something like, there's more to it than like what you initially like are drawn to. Like, and you kind of have to dig into it to really like understand. Like, is that how like sort of you would define?
Yeah, I'm not really sure like innately what part of my core is drawn to it. I just know that I am.
Yeah,
I just like the weirdness of it and kind of like getting a break from reality.
Oh yeah. I mean, hey, I fucking love David Lynch. He is one of my favorite filmmakers, and he is a master of the surrealist genre of cinema. I think it's really fascinating too, because it kind of it sort of strips like the world from a lot of its superficiality. It kind of makes it like where, especially when it comes to things like the media or things that, we things that, you know, we have learned growing up and like continue to understand it as the norm. Mm-hmm. It's almost like it gives your mind or I guess like your perception a chance to sort of like put a spin on like, you know, on your surroundings, or put a spin on like, you know, what everything around you means, and just like how, and
I definitely think it's a direct comment on reality and kind of like a protest to maybe sort of like the normalness that we all lead and kind of are expected to follow in terms of our everyday life.
Yeah, totally. Or for example, also like when something tragic happens, and like you get intensely affected by it, or traumatized by it, or on the flip side, when something amazing happens to you and it doesn't feel real, like it's like, I guess that's your mind attempting to sort of, your mind is being challenged with sort of like reframing what your understanding of like that normalcy is, like that sense of like reality around you. Like your mind is just thrown this huge curveball and like basically has to figure out how to like readjust. And right. Something I find very surreal in society is the concept of like crass commercialism, and like how, and like tourist traps and just things that just have, like, you've been to the Wisconsin Dells, right? Yeah, like you go into that town and like it seems like you're taught, like you understand growing up just how like it's this place that like every kid wants to go to, and it's so much fun. It's like, it's an amazing like resort town, and like you beg your parents to take you, but you grow up and you actually you actually go there and you look around and you're like, wow, this town is fucking weird. Like this is just a really like there's just such a sense of eeriness to it, and
especially when no one's there.
Yeah, it's just super like there's just something about it that's just kind of that surrealism, where it's like, how is this like how does a place like this like make sense? Like what, like why do people like buy into this? Like what is so fascinating about this place that like everyone is just like has just
I think a lot of
glorified.
It is, you know, it's obviously marketed towards children, and children have this sort of idealized view of the world, and they get really excited about things like themed water parks and theme parks and
weird
they
museums.
Totally buy into
stuff,
it, like Ripley's or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know, I think that's kind of like growing up and realizing the weirdness of it. It feels like you're on the outside of it now, but I think it's really special and magical that it exists for those like kids to experience it. Because I remember, like you said, being so excited about going to those sorts of things as a kid, and like I don't know, they're very awe-inspiring and entertaining.
Right, but then you grow up and you just find yourself so outside of it. I think that's a good way to put it, is just you just feel super outside of like that that like reality that you're shrouded in, and I don't know, I think the way films play with it can be really cool too.
Have you seen the movie The Holy Mountain?
Yes.
I just saw that at the Oriental, I think, and it was the first time I've seen it. It was mind-blowingly good.
Yeah.
It was very, at times, like vulgar.
Yeah.
Because I think surrealism can definitely lead to the vulgar, and I think that's a good thing. It's not always just like random flowers, daisies.
Right. Yeah.
It's also like kind of dark and destructive things too, like you said.
Yeah. Like Blue Velvet also is another good example of a movie that plays with that. Like it's yeah, like it seems like this normal everyday town, but there's like all these like there's this weird like sort of there's just this huge like plots conspiracy occurring like within film explores that. Yeah, the Holy Mountain. When I saw it, actually, I didn't see the entire thing because it kept fucking buffering.
Damn you, streaming.
Honestly, yeah, it was really annoying, but it seemed very symbolic. Like just
for sure.
from what I was like the parts I did see, like it seems like generally a very like symbolic movie.
Definitely what was commenting on like what was going on at the time.
Yeah.
Like politics and like wars and that sort of thing too. Religion. What were you gonna say?
Oh no, you kind of like hit it right nail on the head. Where did you feel like you grew, as an artist, like between Dream Avu and Shadow? Where did you find like sort of how would you define your evolution there?
Okay, yeah. When I was writing Dream Avu is when I first moved to Milwaukee, and honestly, that whole summer I was like a total hermit and didn't really do shit. Basically just locked myself inside and wrote songs all day, and maybe rode my bike once in a while.
Yeah.
But since then, I've realized like the importance of the balance of going out and doing shit and locking yourself in and writing. Because to me, it's really tempting to live a sort of hermetic lifestyle at times. But I think in terms of evolution as sort of like an artist in general, I've sort of gotten better at like networking and trying to find shows and playing and meeting new people. In terms of music though, I think Dream Avu was a very necessary step for me to take, because before that I hadn't produced my own records. I hadn't really messed around with anything beyond my guitar and my voice, essentially. So that album really got me out of my comfort zone and got me trying different things, and now from there I've realized kind of where I want to go in terms of songwriting. I've realized that I'm gonna keep with my acoustic guitar, although at times I felt like I was maybe never gonna touch it again. But it always starts with the acoustic guitar and goes from there.
Sure. And you started working with more samples and like electronics.
With my last batch of songs for the Shadow EP, I used a lot of samples from my friends playing like piano or saxophone, and then I took clips of those and made them into tracks. Those are fun, and I've been learning that the performance side of those production-based songs is a little weird for me still, because a lot of the times I can't really reproduce it in the live setting by myself, so I kind of just have to play the backing track, which is a little uncomfortable for me, just because it feels like karaoke or whatever. But so I try to also have guitar present on the track, so I can just kind of be doing something and make it look like I'm actually entertaining rather than just like mumbling into a mic.
Right. Yeah. I remember seeing you at that Nausicaa show. You looked like the master of ceremonies.
That was a.
But you were doing songs you didn't normally do,
right?
And that was so you still made it like unique among your performances, and it was still pretty cool.
Yeah, for that show, I think at the time I was getting a little sick of playing my just regular acoustic set, so I started looking back at my old B-sides that I've made in the previous like summer, and I was like, you know what, these are actually pretty fun. Maybe I won't release them, but I kind of want to play them at least once.
Yeah,
so
totally.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, hell yeah. So I remember you had mentioned that you feel you're most inspired by life experiences rather than like looking to like previous artistry and sort of like deriving a lot of influence from that. Like you based on things that like you've lived through and things that you've like just seen. I imagine dreams would be like a big source of inspiration for you.
Oh yeah. In terms of scenarios that happen in my life that inspire me, it's mostly, honestly, interactions between people, experiences I have, like within myself, like internal struggles and beautiful things that happen.
Yeah.
Like it's like even things like, when you're driving on the highway at night and like your headlights will flash like the sign as you're driving by.
Mm-hmm.
And I've noticed that like the instant your headlights hit that little sign, like a little rainbow sometimes occurs.
Oh, yeah.
And like that little flash of a moment are like beautiful things that inspire me. Like, I don't know, just weird things, like little intricacies of life definitely inspire me. But in terms of, I think a lot of people get stuck with describing what they are influenced by. They just name other artists, which isn't a bad thing because, everything that basically any artist does is informed by what's happened in the past, and you can't really escape from that, and you can't really hide your influences even if you try it in terms of, your musical style, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people sort of pick up on that even if you don't outright say it. Like, I think a big habit of most musicians is they'll like see a local band and then they'll go up to them after and be like, oh, you sound like so-and-so, so-and-so, and that. And that's happened to me, a handful of times, and it's like, I'm not just trying to copy like artists or whatever. I'm trying to like have my own voice, so I try not to like tip my hand and
emulate like everything and other artists are doing.
Right.
I actually I've tried to get out of the habit of doing that when I talk to musicians, because it can be insulting to them, even if like they genuinely do take inspiration from that artist or like they do like that artist. Like I remember like one of my friends like showed me some music he made. He was like a garage rock, like sort of like a surf pop artist, and he had made some music. I listened to it and like I told him, oh yeah, like this kind of sounds like the band's like Best Coast or like Yuck, and he was like, well, I don't like those bands, but thanks. And I felt so bad because like even though I knew like my intentions were good and like I know he knew my intentions were good, like I still felt like I made him feel bad, or that I made him like feel like he wasn't doing what he was trying to do. So like I've tried to like shake that habit. Like I never try to like do exactly what you said, like walk up to an artist after a show and be like, oh, you gave me like these kind of like these vibes like from this artist, but like that's,
I mean, it shows that you're well versed and kind of like knowledgeable about like different genres, which is like totally commendable. But I think a lot of artists are like sensitive and really want to believe that what they're doing is like
unique,
super unique.
Yeah.
But a lot of the times it maybe isn't, which is totally like normal.
Yeah. I mean, and like I think that any creatives are sensitive to that. Like even if someone told me that like my show reminded them a lot of like what this other podcast host was doing, like part of me would be like, oh, thanks, like that must be a sign that I'm doing something correctly. But part of me will also be like, well, I don't want to be too much like them. I want to still like do something a little differently. And I read, so like a lot of times, like I'll like read like other like when I read other music journalism, I try to like I'll look at the style of writing before I even look at the content of the article.
Okay.
And I look at like how someone constructed a story. Like I'll look at things like Milwaukee Record or the Journal Sentinel's music section and stuff like that. Like I'll look at sort of like how they decided to tell the story. And I won't always look at like what the article is like specifically like telling, because like I'm in a way like I'm trying to look for myself like doing something differently than they are. Like I want to be writing, at the end of the day I want to be writing my stories like in my own way,
right?
And like something that's just, you know, independent of like what another publication is doing, which sometimes makes me not even want to look at other journalism because I don't want to like sound like or I don't even want to be overly self-critical.
See, that's a dangerous road to go down. I've found myself in terms of music kind of doing that too. Like the past few months I've been listening to less and less music just because I don't know, it's just you don't want to soak that in and like have that come through your music, or like it's a weird thing that happens. And I guess maybe where you are in terms of writing, you've realized that like there are a certain set of different styles and like you can kind of break it down in terms of like the theory of the article.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I do. And like when I hear a new song, I'll be like, okay, and now that I can, like I have like a little bit of a trained ear from going to school, I can kind of like know what is happening theoretically and harmonically in a song. So it sort of makes me, I don't know, it's great to know that, but it also makes you a little underwhelmed by most things.
yeah, totally.
It kind of like takes the magic out of it.
Because you have your own sense of like how you want something to sound or how you want something to look.
Right.
And because you said earlier you listen for a lot of like the technical aspects of the music, the chord progressions, the timbres, the the polyrhythmic components of songs in some instances. Like a musician is gonna like notice that before someone like I do.
Oh, for sure.
Because like I don't make music, but I might notice something about like the AP style of a news article before someone else looks at that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So okay, what's up, Micah?
Hey.
All right, dude. What keeps you up at night?
What keeps me up at night? Oh, snap. Probably my refrigerator and the drunk people outside.
Right. Yeah. Where do you live?
On the east side, like right on Prospect.
Yeah, you're gonna get a lot of address hoppers there.
Yeah, for sure.
What puts you to sleep?
What puts me to sleep? I think my refrigerator.
It keeps you up and puts you to sleep.
Yeah.
Sure, right.
Probably the notion that tomorrow's a new day. It's really cheesy, but yeah.
No, it's true. Yeah. No, I look forward to waking up. I go what puts me to sleep is looking forward to waking up. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's weird, but thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it was a good time. So Zuppy, streaming everywhere. Shadow EP, Dream Avu, and you got new music coming out soon?
Yeah, probably this summer, hopefully.
Fuck yeah.
Stay tuned.
Keep an eye on it. All right, thanks for watching, Mr. Nice Guy. We'll see you next time.
Mr. Nice Guy.
Oh boy, what a long day. Sure, I'm ready to go home.
Hi, do you know about breaking and entering?
Come in.
Are you talking about the music website where I can find all of Milwaukee's music in one place?
Yep.
And that means anything I want?
Yep.
Pop?
Yep.
Rock?
Mm-hmm.
R&B?
Yep.
Folk?
Yep.
Indie?
Yep.
Hip-hop?
Of course.
Norwegian death metal?
Sure.
All right, cool.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Uh-huh.
Now get out.
Wait, what?
Breaking and Entering, the Milwaukee music website for you.